Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. I'm Divya. Divya, CEO and co-founder of HQ NFTs. We're a no-code platform, and what we do is we help creators create collections. Then we have a marketplace where you can buy and sell NFTs at the same time. We make the onboarding process absolutely seamless, wherein you do not need a MetaMask to actually buy, sell, or even onboard a proof of attendance for a specific event.
Hello everyone, my name is Andrea Bonaceto. I'm an artist and also an early investor in the blockchain space.
And I'm Paul, part of FXHash, largest of art marketplace and platform. Yeah.
Okay, great. So, I mean, you are one of those the NFT.NYC official artists, so that's fantastic. So tell us a little bit about your experience of and how you went about creating these collections, building your community. Few words.
Yeah, I'm very thankful for NFT.NYC for including me among the featured artists at my works in Times Square a couple of days ago, which was quite cool, as I announced like my new NFT release with a major auction house. The process has been quite organic in building my community. I've been into the space since the very beginning, and I've seen it like grow pretty much from zero to where we are right now, and met, with all the key players. I can tell that at the beginning, everyone was very open, like approachable. Then, through time, everything went, so crazy that it changed, I think, relatively quickly. But I think now that things are quieter, is more sustainable, and certain creators that have understood that they need to grow their profile organically without minting too much, working with the right collectors, are the ones that then are gonna be relevant in the long term. So I'm very bullish overall on the ecosystem and on the space, and I think that bearish cycle, bullish cycles are just cycles, and they always happen.
Absolutely. And what are your thoughts in terms of onboarding? What are the challenges that you're seeing? How creators are finding to bring communities onto the blockchain? What is the biggest challenge that you're seeing?
I think biggest challenge we see during live events or like live mint that we do is simply people not having wallets yet, being interested in the art, like going to galleries, going to museums, and then sort of like bridging that gap. And that is really what we are focusing on at the moment, trying to make that as easy as possible, as seamless as possible, and really just like removing any friction points. So we're working with Autonomy, for example, which is like an ETH-based and Tezos-based wallet that also right now did like the MoMA interaction with Rafika Nadol, and that is like really good. So really it's just about working with the right people, trying to educate people on what to do, and that is what we're focusing on.
Great. And in terms of the projects that are out there, I mean, we've seen this one cycle where art was literally leading the way, in which NFTs, where we saw the NFT adoption. That cycle, I think, is great, but now we see a lot of utility-based NFTs. What are your thoughts on it, Andres?
My thoughts are that NFTs, in the end, are very broad. Like NFT is a very broad word. It basically means that you provide in a digital world digital ownership of unique goods, which makes perfect sense. So it can be art, it can be a house, it can be, I don't know, this microphone in the metaverse, it can be anything. So actually it was a bit of a misconception identifying NFTs as art, or even as collectibles early in the days. It was just what at the beginning immediately captured people's attention, because if you remember, we were in the midst of COVID, people couldn't go to museums, and art was definitely something that people could connect with, and digital creators, they saw it as a way to actually, in the end, be legitimized next to physical artists. But that was, just the beginning. So it's way broader. So I think that it's natural. Like, we are evolving, and we are now seeing the full potential of NFTs. Yes, there are like utility-based NFTs. There'll be like more use cases, but I think it's, again, everything quite normal and natural as things evolve.
And are you seeing any trends at all, Paul, in terms of the people that you're onboarding? Are you seeing more of art, a combination of art and utility?
Mm-hmm.
What are you seeing?
I mean, we are mainly just doing art. So on our platforms, there are a few projects that have like some utility aspect to it, but that is then much more like passes, where then pass holders get like access to specific art drops and basically have like a reserve right on things. But like I agree with a lot of with what Andrea said, that ultimately like NFTs are just like your proof of ownership. Like the NFT is never the art. Generative art, for example, has been around since the 60s, and just now artists can make a living of that. They don't have to do like their own job anymore. They can like focus on being an artist, and this technology, which it really is, sort of like helps shape that way. But yeah, I think like at least like in the broader population, like that has not really arrived yet. I think like within the builders, they do understand that. But it's much more about educating, again, coming back to that point of showcasing what we actually do want to do.
Great. Yeah, I think for me, what I'm now seeing as a trend within the PFP NFT space is that people are taking these PFP NFTs and kind of embedding audience engagement and audience management as a way of reaching out to the audience. So that's a really interesting sort of theme that's coming through. Anything from being able to talk to your audience, your super fans, based on what they have they bought within the NFT collection, to talking to everybody else in the community and being very targeted. That's another interesting aspect that's coming through, and it's really exciting. And last but not the least, I mean, there's so many other applications, but just some of the things that just pop up in my mind is where you could embed a piece of real value to a trait within a PFP collection, and then do giveaways and such, or even merch that you can tie to your PFP. So that's a really exciting space, I suppose. Yeah. And what do you think about no-code infrastructure, Andreas? What do you see as an artist? What are the challenges that when you speak to people, your artist friends, what are the challenges that they are facing?
On no-code infrastructure, I think is a trend that will keep growing. We have seen stuff like ChatGPT that you can just tell to ChatGPT, hey, code that, and it will code it. So reducing barriers, removing barriers to entry, and making everything more accessible is definitely a big trend. Also because people are quite lazy, and if there is someone that is doing things for themselves, they'll just go for it. Like the whole capitalism probably model is based on that assumption, which is quite correct. So I think it's gonna happen more and more. And yeah, I mean, everyone wants their life simplified by technology. So I think it's something positive. What are artists' challenges? I mean, it depends really from the artist. One element is for sure onboarding into the space. It's true that if you're not tech savvy, blockchain savvy, going through MetaMask and knowing what is a crypto wallet, sending ETH and stuff, you're like, what the hell is that? I just want to buy art. I want to create art. So it is a barrier to entry. So I feel anything that creates a better user experience in that direction is definitely welcome, and is what then will broaden up the audience, because in the next cycle what we need to focus on is to onboard the next 100,000, 500,000 users into the space, and you won't do that by telling them, connect your MetaMask and go through. It's quite tedious process.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm so glad you brought that up, Andreas, and I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we are solving. The big problem is onboarding the MetaMask. So as part of the platform, when you create the collection and buy, or you give away the NFT for free, we make the onboarding process super seamless, because we have a non-custodial that we build in the back end. And so it's really powerful when you give away a piece of art in a form of NFT to someone and say, you can buy this NFT, or you can take it for free, and you don't have to download a MetaMask. That's huge. So that's a great point. Yeah. What about you, Paul? What are you seeing in terms of the no-code platforms, and where do you see the biggest benefit to the artist?
I think with no-code, it's like a lot of people, or like traditional artists, are getting interested or have seen sort of like some digital counterparts of their work, but ultimately are lacking the technological ability to create something. So their no-code tools can help. However, at least from my experience, I mean, ultimately, someone has built that no-code tool and has to like made some like choices where your artistic freedom probably can't be expressed in the same ways. It's good to get started, but what we have personally seen on our platform working the best is to couple traditional artists with developers and basically allowing them to have like a person basically act as their no-code tool. I think no-code tools are great. I mean, we've seen it like Zapier and all of that, how it can like make your life easier. Like OpenAI, ChatGPT, like these things will always happen, but ultimately you need someone who like at least can read and understand code. I think without code, especially in this world that we're living in, won't really make that much of a sense. But it's cool, it's needed, but it's not like the final answer to these things.
Yeah, that's great. So I think for me, I'm a big believer in no code, especially in the Web3, if you're looking to advance the space. So just to put this into perspective, if you are looking at some of your mainstream NFT platforms like Ethereum, Polygon, and all of those, right? You have a few 100,000 blockchain developers, and that's really it. You know, the guys who really know their stuff, there are a few 100,000 of them. And if you look at the Web3 space, you have about 18 million web developers. And even that, the Web 2 space, I'm talking about JavaScript and such, right? So if you have to scale something like the Web 3 space, which is so complex, even in terms of understanding why, when you buy something, you have to pay gas, or what is a hash? So there's so much complexity to it in terms of the technology that it is so important that we have a lot more no code, because otherwise we might be stifling creativity, and a lot of beautiful art might just be in the physical form and not on the blockchain forever. So that's something that's really I'm very passionate about with the no code platform that we have. Yeah, thank you. Andreas, you also have a fund. Can you tell me a little bit about your fund? Yeah.
Yeah, my background is quite peculiar because I'm an artist, but I actually have a finance and economics background. So I studied finance in London, and then invested early in crypto in 2018 with other 3 friends that used to work for BlackRock at the time. We launched an investment fund that invested mostly in layer 1's protocols. It was a very successful fund. We returned all the capital with the profits, to the investors, and then we launched a second fund that we are currently deploying. We have around 10 million left to deploy at the moment. We invest like a seed, Series A, tickets between like 200, 300K to $1 million per deal. If there is any project like currently raising, reach out. Yeah, we invest in like metaverse NFT projects, but also we're quite agnostic and opportunistic. We are very like high conviction in terms of when we invest. We tend to keep the bar quite high. We're based in London, but we're always around. We're traveling a lot, like all the time. So that's pretty much about us. The fund is called Eterna Capital.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, yeah. I think you should definitely follow. Everybody. I mean, do you have linked? Twitter profiles and such? Yeah,
Instagram, Twitter. Like just search my name, you'll find me.
Yeah. So anything that you want to specifically bring to people's notice, Paul?
I mean, not really. I think it's like looking at like sort of like the broader thing of things, not really only looking at an NFT thing, but just looking at sort of like what we can do, how we can advance the overall space, how we can advance, in my case at least, generative art. And I think like, for example, what Andrea is doing makes a lot of sense in that sense, like deploying capital to where it's needed. But other than that, nothing really in that sense, I would say, or at least nothing like to the topic of that panel.
Okay, great. So raise of hands if anybody has tried to, either get a POAP or purchase an NFT and have had challenges, or just given up with MetaMask. Yeah. Yes, there we go. So I guess the biggest sort of problem that we are trying to solve here at HQ NFTs is that where we are creating we've created a platform where you onboard without the need for MetaMask. So that makes the sort of onboarding seamless. And just want, you know, to kind of put it out there, because it's such a powerful piece where you take away that crazy madness with having to put in your MetaMask details, run the risk of losing your NFTs that you would have bought, probably, I don't know, a Bored Ape maybe, or a CryptoPunk. And there are really crazy horror stories out there. And so that's something that is so dear and near to what we do. And that was the biggest problem that we were trying to solve. And here we are, and we've solved it. So that's exciting for us at HQ NFTs. As artists, you know, we really believe in empowering and giving back to the artists. So, Andrea, what are what are your sort of, takeaways, and what you're giving back to the community? How are you going about it?
I think all the artists in the NFT space, in the end, they're also collectors themselves. So I think reinvesting, part of the proceeds back into the community is something that is important, and supporting the creators that you connect with, and is something that I think, by some extent, I am doing. And then also another element that I try to bring in my works is to actually bring the audience into the works. So again, I'm also doing like some generative components in what I do. Like I had a work last year in October auctioned at Christie's during their evening sale, and basically what we did then was to create an AI software that would take all the information that people would share on social media, like Twitter, Instagram, using the hashtag of the piece, and like abstract them, and through the neural network of the AI, then embed them by some extent in some sections of the work. So I like the fact that the audience right now is no longer passive. So that's also giving back in the sense that with physical art so far, you look at artwork, you're like, yeah, great, amazing. You love it, right? But now you can actually feel more connected, and the audience can be the artist by some extent. Then you have the metaverse layer. You can give life to a work of art, which is what I'm doing now with the work that is on the billboards, like where the work can actually morph into a metaverse avatar, and whoever buys it can actually live and actually be the work of art in a parallel dimension almost. So you can do a lot of things, I feel, to give back to the community, also in changing the relationship between the audience, the collectors, and the artists.
What about you, Paul?
Totally agree. I think we've seen that. Like in the beginning, pretty much like the artists always have like pushed out their pieces, and that was it. Then I think, there were some few other platforms, but the first one to really do it like in a collaborative way was Tyler Hobbs with his QQ element, where he basically gave the framework, but ultimately let the collectors be the ones that decide what they want to mint and what artwork they want to own. And I think that was quite powerful. We at FX Hash have developed something similar as well. Basically launched it, I think, a month ago, and it's quite an interesting process to see how now collectors can shape rarity, how collectors define their own tastes, where it is like completely different to just like basically believing in the algorithm to put out your piece, to put out your generative artwork. So that's quite interesting, and I think that's just like where we are starting to begin. Also, you can think of it as in like live interactions. If you have been in a museum, or if you go to IKEA, for example, there's always the same pictures hanging there and with the frames, and like there's New York City skyline. But why does everyone have to buy like the same artwork in that sense? Personally, I think that's stupid. So if you give like an artist a framework, a rough direction, hey, this is what you want to do, then you as a collector, as a buyer, can then end up sort of like customizing it to your own beliefs. I think that is where sort of like also like the mainstream adoption will come in, because there's like a much deeper connection to it. So that's just like a few things that I think I'm currently really excited about in that space.
For me, it's we're working with the Lunar Prize mission that's actually sending off NFTs to the moon. We have some really exciting collections that we're working with. One is the legendary saxophonist Scott Page from Pink Floyd. We're launching his collection, so that's a really exciting one for us, because when we started off, we are a woman-founded company, and we had a rocket, as our logo, and people were like, why? And we said, no, we want to keep it, and and we said we're going to make the creator economy blast off to the next galaxy, and so we did. Not maybe not to the galaxy, but at least to the moon. So it's pretty exciting for us, and that's something I'm really passionate and excited about at this point, I suppose. Yeah. How much time do we have?
4 minutes.
Oh, great. We have a lot of time. Yeah. So what are the trends you're seeing, Andreas? What are you noticing in terms of, where it is going with the space?
You mean NFT art or in general?
NFT art, yeah.
I think that it's quite obvious that we are seeing decoupling between creators that have understood that it's very important to take care of collectors, not mint too much, and focus on very aspirational works, and other people that didn't understand that. They money grabbed like crazy during the bull market, and now they are struggling, obviously, because they destroyed their supply and demand dynamics. So I think the main trend that I see is that NFTs are transcending NFTs in the art space, meaning that NFTs, for me, they're just a mean to an end to deliver a concept, and then you just need to talk about art. So we are seeing some creators that are now next to traditional artists, in art sales as well, like very big, auction houses and stuff, exhibitions, They're really, as I said, entering the art world properly, and they are accepted by that. We're seeing like Refik here at the MoMA. So this is very important, in my opinion, for the whole space. And then the majority of artists, I think, because the reality is that is the majority that, let's say, were more opportunistic when the market was crazy. Then they maybe made a bit of money back then, but they will become irrelevant going forward. So I think this is the main element that I see. And NFTs, as I mentioned, are not the end, but are like the tool. There are like artists that they paint on, I don't know, canvas, paper, whatever. There are others that are using NFTs to deliver, something. As I mentioned before, for art, NFTs are not just authenticity of a digital good. They are also that, but you can do so much, if you really deeply Paul mentioned like Tarek Hobbs and, generative art. I can do so many things, and I feel that that's a very interesting trend.
Yeah, would agree on that. And also, especially when we're talking about like digital art, generative art, all of these things, one of the biggest things I'm currently seeing is the sort of like the collectors need or like want for physical pieces. So ultimately transcending this experience that we all experience on our phones, on our laptops, and putting physical pieces in galleries. One big example for that is like we have Zankan, who's like amazing generative artist, who yesterday unveiled his like paint blotting mechanic with art matter. Like the physical pieces are still on show there in Brooklyn. Today there will be like the digital drop on our platform happening, or like today in the evening at Christie's they will unveil like a one-of-one of Joshua Davis that will be sold there in like a physical format. However, then again on Wednesday at like a different location here at Proof of People, we had like a digital sale of all of these things. So you can really see, especially if you want to go to the traditional art collectors, that these are the people that want physicals, that understand the magnitude of things, and that, again, the NFT is the means to an end. It is just the easiest and most logical way to sell digital goods, so to speak.
Great. And coming back to the no-code piece, where do you think it's going to have the most impact? Is it going to be the art point? The art, the utility? Is it a combination, or is it? Where do you see it kind of playing out? Infrastructure. Okay. So is it? When you say infrastructure, is it onboarding is going to no? Across.
I think across all boards, but really just like allowing people to build like own tools on their own in that sense, and having like a medium tech-savvy person then being able to build and ship something that suits their need, and hopefully the need of other people as well.
What about you, Andreas? What are your thoughts on where it's going to have the most impact, the no-code platforms?
I think in the onboarding, in the initial onboarding, where people, they need to get acquainted with what's going on, and there is definitely an easy way to start trying out stuff. But then I don't think it will completely replace coding, because if you want to do like ad hoc stuff, like very aspirational, it's more like an assistant. Like the way you use ChatGPT now, for instance, is not that you don't need to do anything anymore, at least up until now, you know. But you can definitely use it in a smart way and try out things and get some insights, and then from there you create whatever it is that you want to create with more like custom-based tools.
And I think we're done with the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're out of time. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much,
Thank
guys.
you.
Yeah.